What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Dude, check this out, okay? There's not a lot of phones out there that people get hyped about. It's like every time I make a video about the Galaxy S4, people literally go wait in line for this video. I've seen people before literally wait in line outside of their computer for me to drop this video, and I'm super excited to drop it today. And that phone is the Samsung Galaxy S4. Pretty much every single year I've been talking about this phone. It's been one of the most viewed videos I've ever done. It's not the most, that one's still the Subway video for some reason, and the second one is the iPhone 6 video. But a lot of people do care about this phone, and for good reason. It's still one of those phones that is actually sold out quite a bit in third world countries outside of the US, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, even sometimes when I'm in Asia or something like that, I still see companies and phone companies still selling the Galaxy S4, which is pretty crazy. For someone like me, I'm like, that's a pretty bad deal if you're still spending like over $300 on it in US dollars. But really, different countries do offer different things, so I don't want to hate on it too much. But this phone really hasn't changed too much even since last year. I did a late double eye swipe on it last year in 2018, just like a couple months ago, and I kind of re-updated the video. I haven't really talked about it too much differently since the beginning of that year, and I can tell you that not much has changed yet again as far as keeping it stock and not getting, custom ROM capability. But if you do want to eventually root it and custom ROM it, I mean, I'll tell you right now, that's not a horrible possibility. A lot of different changes have happened. But before going too further into the software, which I will talk about in a second, let's go ahead and talk about the hardware and see what exactly, what this phone is still rocking. So on the front, it has a 5-inch Super AMOLED display. It's 1080p. I can tell you right now that this panel still is pretty decent, okay? Especially compared to something like an iPhone XR, which just came out in 2018, just a couple months ago. This panel definitely blows that out of the water. I definitely like this one more. It still feels like, I know it's like glass on the front, but it still feels like a little plasticky to me. Maybe it is plastic, I don't even know. It doesn't feel like the best build quality though, 100%. The chassis around the phone is kind of plastic, kind of metal. It might actually be aluminum or something, I just don't know. But we also have the home button on the front, no fingerprint sensor or anything like that. Capacitive buttons on the side, and on the back we actually do have a removable back, which is pretty interesting. Not a lot of phones now have that, but you also have the removable battery and the removable storage as well, so you can go add in another 32 or 128, whatever this thing supports. Just pile this thing up with memory, and that's actually really cool. It's actually, I just found out it's 64 gigabytes of memory. You can update this too, but still, that's still better than nothing, And you also have a single camera sensor on the back and a front camera, all that good stuff. And that's pretty much it in terms of the outside of the phone. Not a lot of craziness going on. It's pretty much built out of plastic, but still, I mean, you're not going to be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on this thing, so maybe that's perfectly fine with you. But there's also no IP certification, nothing like that. Micro USB, but you also have a headphone jack too, so man, you win some, you lose some in this world, and this phone does have a headphone jack, so pretty interesting. I'm surprised phones now don't have it. I'm still kind of bitter about it, but it's okay. I moved on. I'm not even going to bring it up anymore. Now, in terms of the software, this is where things get a little interesting. Actually, it's kind of stupid, okay? It started off with Android 4.2.2, and you are able to upgrade it to Android Lollipop 5.0.1. It's so funny I'm even talking about that because this phone came out like forever ago, and Android Lollipop was so long ago, it's crazy. And here's the thing, okay? This is where things get a little bit messy. If you're even able to use this phone in 2019 on stock, I would be thoroughly mad at you, okay? And the reason being is not only because it's super outdated and you're lacking in features, but also the security of it. You're almost better off, security-wise, flashing a custom ROM that some third-party developer made than keeping it on stock, because there's so many vulnerabilities with it. You're almost better off flashing like a custom ROM just for the security purposes alone, but you can also go and just flash it for the features in and of itself. And like I said, this thing stopped at Android Lollipop on stock, even TouchWiz. I mean, TouchWiz on Android Lollipop wasn't even that good. But if you look in the custom ROM capability market, not only are there Android Oreo ROMs like Lineage OS and different things like that, but there's also Android Pie ROMs out for this thing, which is pretty crazy. They're kind of few and far between. You definitely would have to go and actually search pretty hard for them, but there's tons of Android 8.1 ROMs out for it. Lineage OS, which is like the new Cyanogen mod, is pretty up there, and they're updated almost pretty frequently. So what I'll tell you is that I don't think anybody's getting this phone to get the greatest features and all these different things, but if you already have this phone, or if you're getting one very soon, I would almost 100% recommend just custom ROMing it, rooting it. Even if not, I mean, what do you have to lose? Like, this phone does not cost that much anymore. If you break it, it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. But what I'll tell you is, as long as you follow the instructions to a T, you will not break your phone. I've bricked a lot of phones. I actually just broke my Nexus 5, believe it or not. And I'm so used to custom ROMing and rooting phones and stuff like that, but I actually broke it because I didn't follow the instructions to a T. So you just gotta kind of be careful. Even someone like me who's been rooting and ROMing phones for so long can still make mistakes. So, because honestly, I kind of got to too cocky and I was just like, you know what, screw it, I don't even need to read instructions, but I messed up, so always read the instructions. But that's pretty much it for the software. I'll probably bring it up later in this video, but moving on to the performance aspect. So here's where it gets kind of interesting, okay? It has the Exynos 5410 octa chipset, an octa-core CPU on some variants. I've heard other variants have quad-core CPUs, but I don't really know, so I'm going to say octa-core CPUs in this example. And it also has 2 gigs of RAM. So what's interesting is that this phone isn't completely 100% slow, and what I mean by that is that when I consider in the age, you know, it came out in 2013, it's like 6 years old now almost, and when I factor in, you know, Android Lollipop, all these different things, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's definitely not the slowest thing. If I had to use it, I could probably end up using it, okay? Would I like it? Probably not, but I do want to respect to the age, you know, like respect your elders. I can definitely say that if you need to use a phone for like a day or two or like a couple of weeks or a month or even or whatever, I could probably end up using this phone. And actually in 2016, this was my main phone for a short period of time, for like a couple weeks. When my LG G2 broke, this was the phone I was using, and I custom ROM'd it and everything, and I honestly didn't have too bad of an experience in terms of the performance, okay? I really like the OLED screen. That's one thing that really drew me in. I just did not like the body of it too much, but in terms of the performance, I think it'll get the job done. I would rate it on stock probably like a 4.5 out of 10, okay? I know that's not the best thing ever, but when I factor in the age and everything, that probably goes up to like a 5.5 out of 10 maybe. And gaming is, I guess, okay as well, okay? Like casual gaming is okay. In terms of the more like heavier gaming, that's kind of where things kind of start getting down. What I'll tell you is that extreme gaming, I would not recommend on this thing either. It actually goes further than just, you know, the raw gameplay of it. This phone is one of the few phones I've ever owned that just heats up like crazy. You can literally, I mean, I'll tell you right now, and I've said this before and you guys probably remember, I made a video in like 2016 of me cooking an egg, or trying to cook an egg, on a Samsung Galaxy S4. I don't even know where that video is. If I find it, I will post it. I'm trying so hard to find it. And I literally was not able to successfully cook the egg, but that's how hot this phone was. I mean, a phone should not be getting this hot on a Galaxy S4. And what's funny is in that video, I didn't even like put a pan on the Galaxy S4. I literally just cracked the egg on the Galaxy S4. And I was an idiot because I could not afford at that time to get even another phone. So I was just kind of making it for the views, and I didn't even end up posting it. But that's pretty crazy. You know, this phone should not be getting that hot. And I noticed with the Galaxy S6, same exact thing. That phone gets way too hot for absolutely no reason. There's no reason these phones should be getting hot like that. I'll definitely say that the performance overall is definitely a solid 4.5 out of 10. But when considering the age, that probably moves up to like a 5.5 out of 10 or something. Now moving on to the camera, I quickly kind of want to talk about it. It's nothing too crazy. It's a 13 megapixel sensor. There's no optical image stabilization. You do have things like autofocus and LED flash. You can shoot 1080p videos on it at 30 frames per second. No slow motion videos or anything like that. What I can tell you overall is that it can definitely shoot photos. It's not even that bad of a camera, if I'm being honest. It gets the job done for sure. Is it the best camera in the world? Probably not. But the weird thing, and actually the cool thing that Samsung does, is they put a ton of different settings and features in the camera app. So you don't have to go around looking around like iOS to go to the friggin' settings app and open it. There's tons of different settings. I honestly don't even remember which ones they were. The Samsung Galaxy S5 the same way, and I really like that about TouchWiz. That's probably the only thing I like about TouchWiz, is the amount of features it just blasts into it. So I'll definitely say that in terms of the features of the Galaxy S4's camera, it's quite a bit. I would say the Galaxy S4 is a decent camera overall. The front camera is pretty bad though. It's a 2 megapixel sensor, and the front camera is only 2 megapixels. It's pretty bad. I don't like the front camera on this thing. I'm not going to hold it against it though. It's whatever. But I'll definitely say that the camera, both front and the back, when combined, isn't the worst thing ever, and I would probably like something more. And I would not recommend people to just buy this phone for the camera, but for someone in the world, if you're in decent lighting, it's really not the end of the world. Moving on to the battery life. This is one of the strangest topics, okay? It has a 2,600 milliamp hour battery, which isn't the, you know, smallest thing in the world for this specific phone, because even though it did kind of have a larger screen, it's not the largest thing anymore, but at the time it was pretty big. On stock battery, it's not really that good, but here's the advantage of the Galaxy S4. Okay, you ready? This thing does have a removable battery, like I stated earlier, and if you're surprised about that, then you need to kind of increase your memory retention, because I said in the beginning of this video. But I really do think that in and of itself makes this phone go from like a 3 out of 10 in battery to like a 6 or 7 out of 10, just because of that. Because you can go and get like a 10,000 milliamp hour battery on this thing and just put it in and just use that phone and just have a huge case on it. But it'll get you throughout many, many days. And even if you don't want to do that, you can quickly swap out the battery by just charging another one. And it's kind of old fashioned, but at least this thing does have the capability of doing that. So I'll say that on stock battery life isn't really the best thing ever, but you do have the convenience of going and switching out the battery later. So that's actually a pretty cool thing. So in terms of battery life, is it great? No, but it can be great if you change the battery up. So that's probably the best way to answer that question. And some other notable things to note, like I said, no IP certification, no water resistance. You do have a micro SD card slot, which is super cool. No fingerprint sensor, which kind of sucks, but in 2013, not a lot of phones did have fingerprint sensors besides the iPhone 5S, which came out later in the year. A Super AMOLED screen on the front. I love this thing. On some variants of the Galaxy S4, you did have Qi wireless charging, not on all of them, but some of them. So depending on which variant you get, that will really kind of determine on whether you will have Qi wireless charging or not. Now here's the thing, okay, surprisingly, to answer the question, is the Galaxy S4 still worth it in 2019? Here's what I'll say, okay? If you need a phone for this side, if you need a phone that's like you don't really have many options or anything like that, I will say the only way I would even recommend somebody buying the Samsung Galaxy S4 right now would be if you're going to custom ROM it and root it, okay? That's the only way I would recommend this phone. Other than that, I would not recommend this phone to anybody. In the used market, they're selling for around $50 to like $75. I will say in the used market, you don't even have to look that hard. You can probably get a Galaxy S5 for around that same price, which isn't even the greatest phone anymore, but like it's a little bit better and you're not going to be spending that much more money on it. If you look maybe a little bit harder, you might be able to get like a Galaxy Note 4, which again, those phones are still in the lower price bracket. It wasn't until the Galaxy S6 era did the phones start keeping their value a little bit better. So what I'll tell you is, man, in the used market, I would only recommend those type of phones if you're going to just custom ROM it and root it. Other than that, you're probably better off getting like a Nexus 5X or something in the used market as well. And I kind of am hesitant recommending that because of the boot looping issues and things. So in that price bracket of $50 to $75 is not a lot of phones I would recommend. But I don't want to leave you hanging. I will link some other phones that I think of in the description below that are around this price bracket as well. I'll link them through Amazon. Actually, they're going to be a little bit more expensive. I'll link a Nexus 5X if I find one. I'll try to link some other phones down there too that Amazon sells, whether they're certified refurbished or brand new. So check out the first couple links in the description for some other counterparts and other phones that might be better than this that I can think of. But in terms of the Galaxy S4, like I said, I would only recommend people buying it if you're going to custom ROM it and root it. But for everyone else, go look in the description and go find the other phones that I would recommend. But that is pretty much it, man. If you have any questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I would really appreciate if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.